Hi, welcome to this Open Security Summit session in September 2022. And I'm going to answer a question that I get asked quite a bit, which is how to become a cybersecurity professional and where to start. So I have a whole bunch of ideas and guidance and topics that I want to cover. And this is going to be an interesting journey. So let's get on with it. So first of all, just, because a lot of my world is application security. So in this kind of thing, application security is part of cybersecurity, so I'm going to use the word cybersecurity because I think that's the one that is the wider world that covers all sorts of other things. So first of all, why you want to join is because cybersecurity is awesome, right? It's a great career. It's super challenging. It's still evolve. Yesterday I did a session with Mark Curfey, and here we are, 20 years into it, and we still love it. We still find it super challenging. The problems have not been solved by any level of measure. There's still a huge amount of innovation that needs to be done. We have evolved a lot, which is great, because I think as a practice, there's so much to learn, and the world is actually quite massive. But it's a really, really great career, right? And I highly encourage people to join in. So why should you join it, right? Or why should you actually be part of this? So one of the things that's important is that money is the worst reason to join. Although it's well paid, although at the moment there is definitely an interesting situation where there's not enough people, there's market economics to drive it, you really should not be joining it because of it, right? Because one of the reasons you should be joining is because you're going to learn a lot, right? Yes, you're going to work a bit, quite a bit. And the key part here is that it should be motivating and fun. The thing about a lot of the stuff we do is super interesting. If you get the balance right, you should be having fun. You should be learning a lot. It should be really something that is quite important. But it's the key, like you're going to be working a lot, and ultimately, you're also going to make friends for life, which is really cool, right? It's a really nice industry. The more you get into it, the more you make people, the more you know what's going on. And I have made friends for life in this industry, which is really, really cool. So there's two target audiences here. There's one where you're already in cybersecurity, and one that you're new to cybersecurity. And I'm a big fan of bringing people into cybersecurity that have not done cybersecurity. And I think we're still in the perfect time for that to happen. Some industries have evolved to a level where it's very hard to do that, but cybersecurity today is still very possible for you to have no experience and do a skills transfer. And in fact, it's one of the things that we really should be striving for, because there's a huge amount of talent outside cybersecurity that really should be joining our world, because it can add a lot of value, but also it deals with the skills shortage problem that we have. So if you're in cybersecurity, it's great. You're at the place where you want to go to the next level. You want to kind of evolve your career. So a lot of the guidance I'm doing here, you already have a lot of great advantages. You're in the game. You're in an area. It might not be the right area for cybersecurity, but that you want to be. But you have already a cool advantage. So you really want to leverage that. You want to leverage wherever you are. Now, if you're new to cybersecurity, the thing about this is really about the world really needs you to join cybersecurity. And what you need to think about is that there's a very good opportunity, if you can find the right job, that you don't have to come down to go up, right? So what it means that there's a lot of industries, and in the traditional path, cybersecurity means that you could be a head of, or a senior person, or doing a lot of senior things in the particular career path, and you almost have to jump 2 or 3 levels down to then go up. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for you to do a lateral move. You just need to find them, and you just need to follow, hopefully, some of the advice I'm giving here to do that. But it's super critical that, when you jump to cybersecurity, going back to the point where you kind of want to do it because you're really interested about it. You shouldn't join it because you think it's an interesting thing, it's hot, or there's more money, or you kind of feel that it's a good career path. You should do it because you are attracted by what cybersecurity does. And the more you look at it, the more excited you should be. And the more you should be looking and understanding that, cybersecurity is actually not that special. It's much easier to take a great professional and make them a cybersecurity, for example, a great developer and make them a cybersecurity expert than to take a cybersecurity expert and make a great developer, or take a great manager, a great leader, a great sort of execution and program manager, or bring them cybersecurity. Is much easier to do that than the other way around. So again, leverage that capability. So the first step, and I now ask every single candidate that applies for the job, but also it's a great way for you to think about it and to present yourself and to have a competitive advantage, is you need to create a presentation about you. So this is a presentation where you get to show who you are, your values, how you think. Basically, it's a visual representation of your CV, whatever that is at this moment in time. So it basically allows you to punch above your weight. Because remember that, if you want to get more into cybersecurity or you don't have a lot of experience when you go into the world, you can't compete on CVs, right? For most job roles, if CVs is the only thing you send, you're not going to be able to get in the door because you're just not going to be strong enough. So you really want to think about how you can present yourself. And this is where I'm a big fan of links, of publishing materials, publishing videos, publishing blogs, publishing stuff. The more you publish, the more hyperlinks you got, the more it's easier to help. LinkedIn is a great source for publishing materials, to getting traction, to meeting people, etc. Twitter is also really good. So really, really leverage that. I think that's something that is very important. And I cannot stress these days, at least from my side, how this makes a massive difference. In fact, for the roles that we're hiring at the moment, the minimum requirement is a presentation and CV. We don't look at any candidates that has not sent a presentation because it really makes a difference. And it's working. We're having some really cool presentations and really things that the CV doesn't really show that they can shine on there. So you really want to hack your way into this, right? Because that's how I did it, and it's still possible today. And by hacking, I mean you need to start. Yes, there's the hack of finding a way in, but also start exploiting stuff. Like in security, there is something in your brain that changes once you exploited something. So even if you don't want to go into offensive security, even if you don't want to go into a more technical sort of security path, you need to have found vulnerabilities, exploited vulnerabilities. You need to understand in a much more personal and intuitive level, what is a security vulnerability and what's the side effects of it. So there's some really great resources out there. OWASP has Juice Shop. There is a lot of great websites. If you just Google, vulnerable web applications, for example, you can find stuff. There's a lot of great online courses. They literally are Google away. So you need to go to the paces. So hack your way into it. Start hacking, start finding vulnerabilities. There's even things like bug bounties that you can do these days. You might even get paid, right? But it doesn't really matter. Like you just go to HackerOne, go to BugCrowd, go to old CNAC, go to these guys and look for the list of active bug bounties and try to find vulnerabilities, right? It's the best way to learn. And so I cannot stress that the best way to start into cybersecurity is to start to find vulnerabilities and exploit them in a nice, safe way in your environment. And there's great guides about it. I can always tell the difference between somebody who's done it, who hasn't done it, because there's a sparkle in your eyes. There's a little thing that you have once you find that vulnerability. And once you find it, you do the happy dance, right? Because it's quite cool. It's like a puzzle. In fact, there's a great series I was watching, which is called Undeclared War. And they have one of the best representations of what kind of hacking and solving a problem is, which is really cool. Like Mr. Robot is also pretty good. But again, find vulnerabilities, exploit them, you get into it. And it's also something nice to talk about if you get to your interview stages. So lots of learning materials online, lots of teaching communities. Like the Open Security Summit now has hours and hours, days and days and days of videos, right? Go and check them out. The people of those videos are all very accessible. Look at OWASP. OWASP has tons and tons and tons of projects, guides, materials. Go in there, learn, right? So I'm being careful here, right? Because, sorry. Okay. So the first thing is that be careful of paying for learning, right? There's a lot of people and businesses that their job is to make money with, the kind of the people who want to join an environment. So I think you need, there's a time for this, but I think I'll be careful in the beginning because you probably are not going to get the most value for money, especially when there's so much great stuff online. So I'll be careful for this. The other one is the certification path. So I have to say that I don't look at all the certifications. I think that they are okay. They give a signal, but they're not a key requirement. The only reason I kind of put that in quotes is I do know that there's some parts of the world that certification is a lot more viewed as a key requirement. And some individuals do like the discipline of learning in a certification way. There's some good stuff out there. I really like the certified ethical hacker. There's a lot of really good ones out there. So just be a bit careful. I know, like I said, from somebody who's hiring, I totally don't look at it, right? I don't care if it's not even a signal whether you have a lot of certifications versus that is not where we will make a call. This is the best place to learn. Contribute to open source projects, right? It's almost like the single most important thing that you can do is contribute to open source projects, because open source projects have a very high quality bar. And I know that if you contribute to an open source project, you've met that bar. You've communicated effectively, you added value. It's one of the best ways. It's free. Like even take OWASP, take the Open Security Summit. There's tons of projects here in OWASP, in other communities that they are desperate for contributors. Be involved, participate, contribute, learn. What's the worst that can happen? Your PR gets rejected. But even just doing that, you're going to learn so much by, what does it take, what it is, etc. And again, the industry is so wide that surely whatever area of cybersecurity you're kind of interested, you're going to get something that you can contribute. The other one is publish. Right? Publishing is a skill. You need to learn it. You need to just get on with it. Understand that it's kind of like by design, you're not going to have a big audience, right? Because if you're not in the industry or you're not a big established player, you don't have a big audience. So that means that whatever you publish doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things, right? You're not going to go viral. You're not going to go, you're not going to damage your reputation with one publish, right? It's what you want to do is learn how to publish. What you want to do is almost have that motivation and that, in a way, the feedback loop. Like I cannot help you unless you publish something. If you publish your CV or publish an article, publish XYZ, then you can ask for opinion. And I still do this. If you look at some of the things I operate, sometimes when I want to reach to a wider audience, I want to get some feedback, I just ask for it. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, nothing wrong with asking for opinions, but you need to learn how to publish. And it's very hard. But if you publish, you're already in a competitive advantage. If you publish a whole bunch of stuff, that goes on your CV. In fact, that goes on your presentation about you. And then, immediately the potential employer has a much better way of thinking about you, right? And that's super critical. But it's hard, by the way, just to be clear, not everybody can do it. I think it's one of the critical steps that you really want to get on it. The other thing is apply for jobs. Again, what's the worst that can happen? You'll be told no. But every time you apply, you learn something. And put an effort on it. Create a presentation. Look, when I was applying for the role of CISO of Babylon Health, I literally wrote a whole strategy for them. If you Google today Babylon Health security strategy, you're going to find what I wrote when I was applying. Why did I do that? Because A, I wanted to show them some of the stuff that I could do. B, I was doing lots of really cool research on healthcare, and I wanted to have a place to do it. And C, it was like, hey, this is what I want to do. So, if you don't put an effort in a job that you apply, you also send it to the other side that you just, you're not that focused, you're not that motivated, and you're just going to scattergun. So apply for the jobs, do a research, contact the people. Look, I'm on LinkedIn. There's a lot of the people you find on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Reach out to them. The worst thing that can happen is they ignore you, right? But every time you do it, you get better. You learn something, and that's how you get better. This is the other thing, right? There's a market economics here, right? There's a thing of there's nothing. In fact, when you contribute to open source, you work for free, right? So there's nothing wrong with this until you get paid for it. So it's almost like, being very brutal. If you don't even have a network where you can do work and not being paid and adds value, then you are one step away from being able to do work and get paid for it. And especially if you're doing a transfer, work for free also means that there's a lot less risk. You go, hey, not being paid for this. And I've done that, right? I've done that. It's a great way to move careers. In fact, I heard this great story of this person that wanted to learn more about a particular topic and called a VC and says, hey, let me shadow you and, I'll do some work for 3 days. And if you like me, you hire me. It worked. So there's a lot of great stuff you can do when you do for open source, you're working for free, but you get a lot out of it. So fundamentally, you're not working for free. You're working for feedback. You're working for exposure. You're working for, basically the ability to be relevant and to know where you add value. And eventually, basically your time available for this should start to get less and less and less the more there's a demand. And then it becomes market economics. So the other thing that's very important, especially again, if you're moving careers or if you're getting, you're in cybersecurity today, you want to go to the next level, you need to find what you're good at. Find the stuff that you can list your skills, what you're really good at, what are stuff that you know that you can do really, really well, and then map that to cybersecurity. So you find that cybersecurity is such a big, network these days, or ecosystem, that whatever you do that you're really good, there's going to be a spot that is very sweet. So, for example, you could be project management, it could be program management, it could be research, it could be writing documents, it could be reading documents, it could be doing technical analysis. Like, anybody who's done a freaking PhD, right, or done a degree in science, or done doctors, or medicine, or done engineering, or done incident response at a hospital, or done manage a store, you have insane amount of skills. So connect that to the parts of cybersecurity that need that. It could be incident response, could be risk, could be program management, could be technical writer, could be education. Find those sweet spots and just get on with it, right? Again, what you got to lose, right? But you want to compete from a position of advantage. You want to compete where you are really good. Maybe you're very good at Jira, maybe you're very good at a particular tool. Leverage that, right? And that's what you really want to map out. And then try out. You need to try a lot of different areas in cybersecurity until you find the one that you like. And this is very critical. You don't want to pick an area that you're not attracted to. You want to pick an area that you find yourself reading about it, even without work. You find excited about it. You find that it's super fascinating. You find that the more you read, the more you want to know. You start reading books, you start reading podcasts, you start getting excited about that area. And cybersecurity has the insane amount of areas. So pick one. If you can't find one, maybe cybersecurity is not for you. But cybersecurity is such a wide world today, and there's good careers on just about every one of them that, try it out. Again, there's nothing lost, especially if you can experiment. Now, the other thing, and I would say this also personally, when you ask for help, actually, sorry, there's a mistake on this slide. Let me fix it. There you go. So no, actually, sorry, it's actually right. Sorry, thinking about something else. So yeah, so no, when you ask for help, no does mean no. Somebody says no, can help, that's no. But if you get a comment of no reply, most likely that means you're too busy. Actually, might as well fix this again. So, and that's very important, right? It's very important that a lot of the people that you want to reach out, they might be too busy. Like, I now fall into my bracket. Like sometimes my email or my LinkedIn is the 2-day, 3-day time span. Right after that, it's not that I don't want to say no. I just sometimes don't even see it. Right, and then eventually I go in and I map it out. But it's important to I would say keep trying until you get a no. Right. So there's nothing wrong with it. Don't worry about it. If people are too busy, they'll just ignore it. And that's okay, right? Because again, they're too busy. You just need to make it easy for them to help, which takes me to my next point, which is you want to find the older version of yourself and ask for help. You want to find that individual that was once where you are today that has a sweet spot for helping out. And just about everybody has, right? I think most people I know, they will have a sweet spot for the person that wants to get into cybersecurity, that wants to join in, that's asking good questions. You could see the evolution. It's actually very satisfying. It's very satisfying to help somebody, to see somebody progress, to know that you gave a nice nudge, and again, ask for help. What you got to lose? And this is where you need to find mentors. But the point here is don't give mentors a problem. So if you go to a person and says, can you mentor me? You just give them a problem. And most likely they're going to say, sorry, I don't have the time, or I'm not sure about it. So give them a challenge. Say, hey, can you mentor me? And I have these 3 questions, or I'm thinking about this. What do you think? That's cool. That's easier to help. So again, find the mentors. Don't take no initial for an answer. right? At least you get a proper no. Go after them, find the ones you like, and ask for help, right? What's the worst that can happen? But you, for example, 2 days ago, there's a great presentation from person that really got. In fact, she got a job because of this, right? And mentors made a big difference. So again, I highly recommend you see that Open Security Summit session. So the other thing is pay it forward. There's this really cool idea that you should be helping others all the time. And you have to remember that whatever you are today, you're already more senior and experienced than somebody else out there, right? So the pay it forward is the idea of do something kind of useful for someone because someone else has done something kind for you. So look, there you go. Look, I'm sharing my knowledge here. I'm doing something kind for you. You do the same thing for somebody else. You never know what happens, right? This is how you kind of ratchet the world a little bit better. But also, teaching is the best way to learn. So remember that regardless where you are, you're already more senior and experienced than others. So help out. Now, don't be afraid to show your passion. Don't be afraid to show your values. In fact, one of the things I always ask for people when they do the presentation is, I want to see their values. I want to see what they do outside of work. I want to see how they think. I want to see what drives them. And it's really cool, right? Some people says I was an athlete. I do this. I focus on that. I like building cars. I build X, whatever, right? I look after my family. I'm a big family person. Doesn't matter. Whatever passion you have outside security is also very important because again, you should be leveraging that. But you should be, in fact, you want to find a place that they like your values. I would strongly recommend you not to be in a place that doesn't share your values because you don't want to compromise that. So again, life is too short, right, to work for places where you really don't believe in it. So show your values, show how you operate, and let the other sides deal with it, right? Look, I'm a big fan of openness, and I know that I always show that value that I have, and there's a lot of people who don't know what to do with it. They don't like it. It's not their cup of tea. I'm not a good fit, and that's fine. But if every now and then I find one that is really cool, right, and then it works really, really well. And by the way, right, the workflow that I'm talking about here, constant improvement, constant learning, hacking your way into the project, it doesn't change once you got your next job, right? It's literally over and over again. I'm still doing most of the stuff that I'll be talking about in this presentation. I might be doing it more senior level, but if I look back in my last years and the path I've taken, in the last decade, I've been doing this. I've been finding the ways, finding the jobs I want, challenging, learning, putting myself in all these places. So, it's not like you do this once and that's it. And it's super critical that you learn how to manage cybersecurity stress, especially if you're new into cybersecurity. There's a lot of people in security that they really internalize, risk, especially the business risks. And I think it's very important that you learn how to deal with this because, cybersecurity, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's always tons of projects. The stakes more and more are very high. There's lots of side effects. You're dealing with things that are actually really, really important. So you really want to get a sense where you need to be able to manage this properly. And that's why it's important to have a work-life balance. Now, this could be working 12 hours a week or 60 hours a week, depends on it. But it's very important that you're not stressed. And if you're learning, if you're in a place where you really like, you should be able to have this. Now, final key topic to talk about. Let's talk about imposter syndrome because I think it's a massive issue. Everybody has it. I have it, right? You need to basically learn how to deal with it. So it's very real. I know some amazing individuals, and it's worse or better in different types of individuals. Like I said, I feel I have this, but I think I have shorter cycles, right? And I've learned to deal with it in a very effective way. But if the biggest problem sometimes you have is you think you're not good enough. And that's, and all I would say is that it's not your responsibility to make that decision. Right? It's not you that should be measuring if you're good enough or not, right? Let the market decide. Let's get data to support it. Once you have data, fine, right? But don't prejudge. Don't think you cannot do something until you actually try to do it, because you'll be surprised. You probably can do it much better than actually other people who are trying to do it. So the thing about this is you need to leverage imposter syndrome to your advantage, because a lot of the people that are competing with you also have that. So acknowledge it, and also learn how to deal with it. Again, learn how to learn how to fail, learn how to actually keep trying it, and find ways to to cope with it. And let's study about it. Study. Talk to people. But I still find that one of the biggest challenges we have, for example, to bring people into cybersecurity or to bring people from one area of cybersecurity into the other area, is that the best individuals don't think they can do it. And it's insane because they are insane professionals. And the jump from where they are to where they could go is actually not even comparable to where they were before to their career. So again, learn to live with it. And by the way, just remember that this is a competition, right? Ultimately, you might say, some people say, well, I don't like to compete, I don't like to do this, I don't like to go out there. But guess what, right? You are in competition with other people who also want a job. You are in competition with basically other candidates. So you might as well embrace it, right? And yeah, you want to be fair, you want to play fair, of course. But remember that this is about you getting something that somebody else is not going to get, right? And it's not, ultimately that's not a nice thing, but that's how it works, right? If you get a job, there's somebody out there who didn't get a job. So, remember that this is a competition and you want to be playing basically your best game. Because at the moment, the topic of this presentation is you want to get into cybersecurity. The bottom line is that the odds are against you, right? You are competing with people who may be doing cybersecurity for 5 years, maybe for 10 years, right? Who have careers, who have degrees, who have certifications, right? You don't have. So the odds are against you. So your job is to change the odds. So your job is to believe that you are better than those individuals in some areas, or find the areas that you're better, or where you're a better match for a particular role. And remember that nobody cares more about you than you. So, put your best foot forward. And ultimately, things are never as bad. Going back to the imposter syndrome, people tend to overthink too much, right? Stuff is never as bad as you think they are. And, again, experiment, fail, try things. Because one of the things I really like is that you should view the number of failures, the number of not successful attempts, things that you tried that didn't work, as success metrics. The point is to learn, right? As this could say that you can't score a football or soccer, depending where you're seeing this, goal if you don't kick the ball, right? And sometimes you just kick the ball and it goes in, right? And it was the best shot, it was the best thing. But if you haven't at least tried to kick the ball to the goal, right, you have zero chance, right, to score a goal. So measure how many times you failed, measure how many times you tried to do something, how many job interviews you went, how many posts you did that had no views or 5 views or 20 views, and then learn, right? And then eventually you find one that has something that is interesting, and then you learn from it. And all this is making you better. So again, measure your less successful attempts, because that number in itself is a success metric, and eventually it will work. So what do you got to lose, right? You have nothing to lose. You got a job already, or you're trying to find a job. You can't get worse than where you're at right now. So try it out, explore, and you might find some really cool stuff. And ultimately is enjoy the learnings, right? And keep doing it and rinse and repeat. And it's like an artist, right? If you think about it, the artists, they get into a movie and they get into a play and they do it for a while, and then 6 months, a year down the line, they have to do it over again. Well, that's kind of our world here. The good news is we are in a great career that keeps expanding. It gets more and more interesting as we go along, and there's some pretty freaking amazing technology and processes and people that you can be working with. So it's a really cool career. So the good news, final point, is that if you're watching this, if you get the point where you're asking this question, you already have a massive competitive advantage against the ones who not. So, give yourself a pat on the back, right? You're already in a good place. Now just, execute these ideas. And look, and give me feedback. I'll be curious to see if some of this works. And thank you. Let's see if you guys have any questions on the chat. And if not, I'm around. I'm reasonably easy to find, and I'm involved in the Open Security Summit. Again, look, the Open Security Summit, it's a great place to present. I know people who got jobs out of the Open Security Summit. There's a great story of somebody who sent a CV and then sent a presentation that she had delivered at the Open Security Summit, And they hired her because of the presentation. They said, oh, CV was kind of okay, but when we saw you presenting, we saw your technical depth, we saw how you communicated, you saw the fact that you actually got on and do it. And so, yeah, it's exactly the person that we wanted. So, cool. So here's a cool question from Raina. It says, what's the tip in terms of breaking out from operational level and becoming more strategic? So the thing that you want to do as you go more strategic, right, is that you want to be starting operating in literally in the more strategic way, right? So a lot of this is about stakeholder management, but a lot of this is about being able to create a vision that the other side believes in. So what I've done is that whenever I was moving to a senior role, I almost try to reverse engineer where the company is going, what they're trying to do, and aligned basically my strategy, my thinking, what I want to do with what the business it wants to go. And the more senior you go, the more important is to have a plan and to make the others believe that you have a plan. So what I would say is that if you're doing operational stuff, you want to start interacting with the business. You want to start interacting with the business owners. You want to start doing presentations for them. So the key part there, it's almost ask yourself the question, what is preventing you today from working strategically, from doing strategic presentations, from mapping? Can you just give me an idea, actually, Raymond, what part of operational? And I can give you some real examples. So is it instance response? Is it DevOps? Is it SecDevOps? Is it application security? Is it risk? I can give you some examples if you want to put them in. But the key about this is, and this is something that sometimes I quite frustrating with a lot of individuals, is that if you find yourself in a place where you have space to act more strategic, don't ask for permission. Now, if you have a good manager, the good manager will encourage you to do that, right? It will in a way, you're solving problems for them. If you're in a place where you don't have that, well, maybe try to change jobs, right? Go do something operational at another place where you have the ability to become a strategic. But the key here is to already act like you want to go. Because the point here is that your first CISO role or your first more strategic role will happen because somebody believes in you, right? So if you think about it, like you're basically saying, how do I break out from operational level? You basically need somebody who's going to believe in you, that you can do it. And the best way to get them to believe in you is to do stuff, right? Is to show them evidence that you have that ability to organize, you have that ability to lead teams, you have that ability to think strategically, to present a strategic view that the other side can do it. And you can do this at any level of the organization, right? So basically say, the BAU stuff that blah, 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 response. So the challenge on balancing the capacity between operational demands and becoming strategic. Well, yeah, but guess what? That's exactly, if you want to go more senior, that's exactly the challenge you have. But you should be already thinking strategic in the role that you're in, and also find smaller companies, find smaller projects that you could say, you're helping them at that level, because wherever you are, depends on whatever size of company you are. There's always going to be a smaller company or a startup that needs that guidance. And a lot of this is about you just, learning about budgets and learning about risk and learning about communication, learning about presenting to senior management and eventually boards, etc. And I would argue that if you look at your environment today, you already have lots of opportunities to do that. So leverage it, either at your work or in open source environments. And that is your path to be strategic. Cool. So another question from Nagraj. I want to streamline my cybersecurity learning by pursuing certifications. Yeah, so this is the thing, right? Like, if you want to learn, I don't think certs is the best way, right? Just to be clear, right? I think there's lots of things you can do to learn, and I'm not sure certifications is the one that's going to give you the biggest learning, unless you really are an individual that needs a huge amount of structure, right? And really sort of streamline, almost like formal academic world. But I would say the best way for you to learn is to go for the online platforms that already have a lot of practical stuff. In fact, your best way to learn is by helping open source projects, right? Because they will, what they will give you is real worldiness that you don't get from most certifications. Like, look, one I like is a certified ethical hacker, because I know, and actually the Crest in the UK is also quite good, because I know there are practical challenges. But if you show me a great score on the juice box, the juice shop from OWASP, I would be as impressed with that, right, as a certification. So, there is value in certifications. I'm not telling you don't do it. I just don't think that for learning, that is the best use of your time in order to do that, right? Like, again, like, if you want to learn, freaking read the GDPR, right? Read the cybersecurity framework. Read the PCI compliance, right? And try to apply it, right? Look, try to apply. In fact, a great one to read if you want to learn cybersecurity is the OWASP software security maturity model. Like, if you read all of that stuff, you're going to learn more about development than anything else that you can do, right? So, yeah, like I said, I think there's some value certifications, but I'm always very skeptical of it, right? And because I don't feel that there's a direct connection between a cert and you getting a job or you're learning a lot, right? Because some of the certs take a lot of time, right? And again, I'm not saying don't take it, just saying that should not be your first priority. Cool. All right, guys. Some great questions. Well, the video will be online, and again, I'm happy to do a couple more sessions on variations of this. So, thanks for your time, and I hope it added some value.
Thank you so much, Dinis.